The United States military has significantly escalated its naval footprint in the Middle East, deploying a concentration of firepower that analysts are calling one of the most formidable maritime assemblies in the region's modern history, as diplomatic efforts between Washington and Tehran continue to collapse and the window for a negotiated settlement narrows by the hour. According to a Pentagon report, the United States has now positioned 3 aircraft carrier strike groups across the critical waterways stretching from the Gulf of Aden to the Strait of Hormuz. The USS Intercontinental Ballistic Missile Carrier Strike Group, previously stationed off the coast of Africa, has been repositioned into the Gulf of Aden, joining 2 other major naval forces already operating in the region. The USS Lincoln Carrier Strike Group is currently deployed in the Gulf of Aden, while the USS Hartford operates in the Red Sea. Each of these vessels is capable of carrying up to 70 aircraft, and collectively, the 3 carrier groups represent an operational air wing of more than 200 warplanes, including F-16 and F-1A fighter aircraft, ready to launch strikes at a moment's notice. In addition to these 3 strike groups, the USS Tripoli, which arrived in the Middle East approximately 1 month ago, is actively patrolling the strategic corridor stretching from the Gulf of Oman to the Arabian Sea. The Tripoli's presence extends American naval coverage across an enormous geographic arc that connects the Indian Ocean to the Persian Gulf. In total, the United States has deployed up to 27 warships across the Middle East theater, with 16 positioned directly in or around the Strait of Hormuz. When the full operational picture is considered, including naval personnel, aircraft, and support vessels, American forces in the region now number in the tens of thousands. Backed by an air campaign that has deployed up to 300 fighter jets across the broader operational zone, with 100 actively engaged in Strait of Hormuz operations at any given time. The scale of this deployment is not accidental. It is a deliberate and calculated demonstration of military will designed to maximize pressure on Tehran, while maintaining the capability to transition from deterrence to decisive action with virtually no additional preparation time. To understand why the United States has assembled this extraordinary concentration of military power, it is essential to understand the geography it is designed to control. The Strait of Hormuz is the single most important maritime choke point on Earth. Every day, an estimated 20% of the world's total oil supply passes through its narrow waters, connecting the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman, the Arabian Sea, and from there to the Indian Ocean and the Asia-Pacific region. The shipping lanes that run through the Strait, the Red Sea, and the Gulf of Aden form the arterial network of global trade. Any sustained disruption to those lanes through military action, blockade, or the threat of either sends immediate economic shockwaves through every nation on Earth that depends on imported energy. Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz on February 28, following a joint U.S. and Israeli air and naval campaign against Iranian territory. Since that date, the United States has been conducting active naval operations to keep those waters accessible to international shipping and to signal to Tehran, in the clearest possible terms, that Washington will not allow the world's most critical energy corridor to remain under Iranian control indefinitely. President Trump formally ordered U.S. warships to transit the Strait of Hormuz on April 13, 1 day after the conclusion of the first round of U.S.-Iran talks, a move widely interpreted as both a tactical, military decision and a pointed diplomatic signal. 40 days into the conflict, the military balance sheet, at least as presented by the United States, reveals a picture of significant and sustained Iranian military degradation. U.S. officials claim that approximately 70 Iranian warships have been destroyed since the outbreak of hostilities. Broader Pentagon figures suggest the total losses to Iran's naval inventory, including warships, fast attack boats, and naval support vessels, may exceed 250 vessels. If accurate, these numbers represent the near total elimination of Iran's conventional naval capability, leaving the Islamic Revolutionary Guard corps reliant primarily on asymmetric tactics, fast attack boats, shore-based missile systems, and underwater mines as its remaining tools of maritime warfare. Beyond the naval dimension, The United States and Israel have jointly launched an estimated 40,000 missiles targeting Iranian strategic infrastructure over the course of the campaign. Those strikes have targeted missile manufacturing facilities, missile storage sites, artillery depots, military airbases, civilian airports with dual military use, and Iranian military installations distributed across the country. The stated objective of this campaign has been the systematic dismantlement of Iran's offensive military capability, its ability to threaten neighbors, project force across the region, and close international waterways. President Trump has been unambiguous about the intent. Iran will not be permitted to maintain the military infrastructure necessary to threaten the United States, Israel, or international shipping. And if Iran does not reach a negotiated agreement with Washington, Trump has warned that the next phase of strikes will target the Iranian economy directly, destroying factories, infrastructure, roads, and seaports along Iran's coastline. He has presented Tehran with what amounts to a binary choice: a peace deal or the full weight of American air power. Despite the overwhelming military pressure, Iran's diplomatic posture has remained defiant, and the most recent attempt to restart talks ended in complete failure. Negotiations scheduled to take place in Tehran on Wednesday were canceled after Iran refused to send a delegation. Iranian officials stated that meaningful negotiations are impossible while the United States maintains a military blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran's position is unambiguous. Before any talks can resume, Washington must withdraw its warships from the Strait of Hormuz and pull back all naval forces from the Mediterranean Sea, the Red Sea, and the Gulf of Aden. The Speaker of Iran's parliament, who led the Iranian delegation during the first round of talks on April 11th, made the Iranian position explicit. The United States' approach of combining military pressure with diplomatic engagement is not negotiation, it is coercion. And Iran will not negotiate under coercion. Washington's response has been equally firm. President Trump has stated that the Strait of Hormuz will be reopened only on terms that the United States sets, and that those terms include Iran's acceptance of the conditions necessary to formally end the war. He has rejected Tehran's preconditions as a strategic delay tactic and warned that continued Iranian refusal to engage will result in significantly more severe military measures. In a brief moment of apparent movement, Iran indicated it had agreed to reopen the strait, but that agreement collapsed within hours, reportedly due to internal disagreement between Iran's elected government and the Revolutionary Guard. The episode exposed, once again, the fundamental fracture within Iran's power structure, a fracture that makes consistent and credible diplomatic commitments extremely difficult for Tehran to deliver. Meanwhile, Israel, which coordinated with the United States in the initial strikes that opened the conflict on February 28th, has made clear that it remains fully prepared to strike Iran again. Israeli warplanes are positioned and awaiting orders. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has signaled repeatedly that Israel views the current military campaign not merely as a response to Iranian aggression, but as a strategic opportunity to permanently degrade Iran's capacity to threaten Israeli security, including its nuclear program, its ballistic missile arsenal, and its network of proxy forces across the region. Both Washington and Jerusalem have reportedly exhausted significant portions of their initial strike inventories during the 40 days of the campaign, but both have also made clear that resupply is underway and that the operational capacity to continue and escalate the campaign remains fully intact. The situation as it now stands presents Iran with a choice that grows starker by the day. On one side, a negotiated agreement with the United States, one that will require concessions on the Strait of Hormuz, on Iran's nuclear program, on its ballistic missile development, and on its support for proxy forces across the region. Concessions that Iran's leadership, particularly the Revolutionary Guard, has publicly described as unjust, unacceptable, and tantamount to surrender. On the other side, the continuation and likely intensification of a military campaign that has already destroyed the majority of Iran's conventional naval capability, degraded its missile infrastructure, and imposed significant economic and humanitarian costs on the Iranian population. The United States has assembled the military force to make that second option extraordinarily costly. 3 carrier strike groups, 27 warships, 300 fighter jets, 16 vessels positioned directly in the Strait of Hormuz, 40,000 missiles already expended, and the clear political will, expressed by the President of the United States, directly and repeatedly, to use more. The question that now hangs over the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, and the diplomatic corridors of every major capital watching this crisis unfold is simple, and it has no easy answer. Will Tehran blink? Or will it choose to absorb the cost of continued resistance, betting that American patience has limits that Iranian endurance does not? The answer to that question will determine not just the fate of the current conflict, but the shape of the Middle East for decades to come.